Hey, this is your next door neighbor with part 4 of proof that the Bible is real and can tell the future. This is something that skeptics and atheists can't deny. If you didn't look at part 1, part 2, and part 3, you need to go back. My part 1 proved that the Bible defied probability calculations. Part 2 and 3 reviewed 2 chapters in Daniel that addressed events that happened up to 1,000 years later. And now we're at part 4. Stay tuned.
Listen to me now.
It would emerge from Rome. It would come out of the Roman Empire, which we already know. And God's people, which is the saints, would be given into his hand for a time and times and a half of times. Times. We got to figure out what it means. That seems like a time prophecy, and we really need to find out what that means. And then it says, it would speak great words against or blaspheme God. That's Daniel 7, verse 25. Now, there seems to be a quote from Revelations. Revelation is the last book of the Bible, and it says in Revelations 13, verse 5, it says, the Bible says that the same power speaks great things and blasphemies. And finally, it says it would intend to change times and law. Let's look into that. Hey, in part 5, we are going to even get another dream by another person, and it is going to give us more information about these 4 beasts and also this last crazy beast, this horn. It's going to give us a lot more information, and so we can get a better idea. But what we're going to do, we're going to just stick with Daniel 7, and we're going to find out how history and how the Bible interprets what the future will hold. Okay, so for Daniel, let's get into these times, the times and divided of times that it was talking about. What does that mean, and what is that about? Okay, times and dividing of times and all of that stuff. Well, we learned from previous stories. Again, we allow the Bible to interpret itself. So we have to look at when a prophecy might have happened or something that might have told us what these times and times meant. And in Daniel, again, there was a story about Nebuchadnezzar. As I told you, Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. He was the king that saw the image in Daniel 2. In Daniel 4, he had another dream. And apparently, Nebuchadnezzar started to smell himself, think he was all that, okay? Tried to get all proud again. And God had to tell him that he had to inform Nebuchadnezzar who he was and who gives him power and things like that. So pretty much Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, okay? And in the dream, I'm just going to read a part of it where it says, let his heart be changed from a man's, and let a beast heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. Okay? So Daniel gave him the interpretation of the dream, telling him that God said that if he doesn't turn from his proud attitude, and if he doesn't take care of the poor and show compassion and stop being the way he was, he was going to become a beast. He was going to become like a wild animal for 7 times. Turns out that Nebuchadnezzar heeded the message, but after a year, he started getting all excited about himself. And one day he was in his castle, and he's looking at himself, and he says, "Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty?" And when he said that, God said, "Okay, you're through." Long story short is he became like a beast. He was roaming the streets, eating like oxen, eating grass on the floor. And it went 7 times. And 7 times, it was actually 7 years. Okay? So for 7 years, he was like that. So time signified a year. Okay? Additionally, a month equals 30 days in Bible reckoning, and therefore a year would be 360 days. So a time, as in Daniel 25, would be 360 days. Times would be 2 years, which would be 720 days. And a dividing of times would be half a year, which would be 180 days. So that would give you about 1,260 days. So when Daniel 25 says, "And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and dividing of times," that means the saints will be taken over or controlled by this beast or this horn for 1,260 days, or in this case, a day equals a year. The other prophecy is saying that this power, where a man is in charge, will think to change times and laws. Okay, so we're going to have to look and see what law would they be changing. Obviously, it would, since we're dealing with the Bible, they would be trying to change God's timing and God's law. So we'd have to look in history to see where that is being done. So those are 2 distinguishing items that we're going to have to go to history and check. Now, you see what happened to Nebuchadnezzar when he tried to come up against God. Who in the world would have that much gall to come up against God and try to change his law?
Listen to me now.